you can also affirm and acknowledge, and you can also, number 6, with your Islamization, invite people to that which is good, and join. Number 7, in joining. Number 8, you can also refute, you can also reject, you can also prohibit, discourage, object, counter, repel, deconstruct, all that which is munkar, all that which is wrong, all that which is dalal, all that which is bad, all that which is against aqidah, sharia, and akhlaq of Islam. But you have to look for it. Maybe in the hard sciences, you may not find in the technical content. But I said, you'll find it in the metaphysical foundations. And then you need to defend the position of Islam. You need to protect and support Islamic perspectives. And number 10, you can also do some reorientation of certain aspects. And then number 11, you can also synthesize the positive aspects of the conventional with Islamic. Then you can also improve where improvement is needed on the basis of Islamic ideas. And number 13, you can reconstruct the conventional systems on the basis of Islamic worldviews. And finally, which is most challenging, which is most difficult, is to come up with a new construction, new disciplines, based entirely on the Islamic worldview. There are many disciplines you can, for instance, if you do environmental science or environmental engineering, you could have that as a discipline here, constructed from the roots all the way up to the fruits, based on Tawheed. Finally, new inventions. And thank you, sister, my dear daughter. I'm coming to the end. Time is up. Sorry, Prof, can you please take a seat, inshallah, and continue the Q&A. So I'm finishing the last part, the conclusion. Conclusion is Islamization or Islamicization is the soul of is the ruh of IIUM. It is the ruh that matters most. Not the beauty of the buildings. Of course, we need to have beautiful buildings, even without air conditioning. It is the soul that matters most. Because of it, IIUM becomes truly unique and religious. Let us all rededicate ourselves to enriching and sustaining the soul, which defines our niche in this world of highly competitive higher education, and in this era of uncertainty, in this era of turmoil and turbulence. So may Allah guide us all to undertake this sacred mission of Islamization of knowledge, so that we can one day come about with the civilization that would replace this corrupt, God-defiant, and ignorant as well as arrogant civilization. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. And I will now take my seat. Thank you.
Thank you to Tan Sri Professor Dr. Muhammad Kamal Hassan for the inspiring talk. Now, we have come to the question and answer session. Thus, we would like to invite Dr. Rosazra binti Roslan, Deputy Dean of Student Affairs, Kuliah of Pharmacy, and Brother Farahi Arif bin Tajul Arifin, Program Manager of this talk, to usher our honored speaker on the forum chairs. Brother Farahi will be the moderator to proceed with this session. Please welcome.
I'm already here.
Dear brothers and sisters, you may present your questions regarding the topic. Please Please mention your name and your kuliah. We welcome 5 questions from all members of the floor. Please welcome.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. How are you everyone? Still weak? Yeah, alhamdulillah. I'm quite proud because I've seen so many students here, but still it is very seldom to see the number of brothers exceed the number of sisters. Yeah, that is okay. So anyone who have any question? We have 2 microphones here. One for brother and one for sister. Okay.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur from Kuliah of Allied Health Science. Actually, I have 3 questions. So, if it's allowed, I will ask all 3. My first and second questions has to do with slide A.5.2 about the broader implications of IIUM. So the first point, the reform of the curriculum of the Islamic University, and the second is about the refinement of the character of and work ethics of the students, scholars, and administration staff. Okay, my first question is regarding in context with our kuliah here. We are learning pure science, and from my observation from CFS until today, it's very common for me to observe that there are compartmentalizations of scientific theories and the divine revelation. Means, for example, in CFS, after every experiment, we have to do a lab report, and in the lab report, usually we will discuss very long discussions about the theories, and suddenly at the end of the lab report, you are required to give a dalil about what you have learned from the experiment, and there is no guide for us to write that dalil. We just maybe according to our understanding, this dalil suit that experiment, and then we put it there. Okay. If here in IIMK, that very topic about the divine revelation, means integration with the curriculum, is always usually located at the very end of the semester. Means if we are facing with a time constraint, that topic of about the divine revelation can be discarded if we are facing with time constraint. So that is my first question about the curriculum, and the second is about the. I've heard my lecturer told me that the staffs, especially the lecturers of IIUM, are actually appointed as the murabbi to the students. So I would like to ask how far does this role is carried out in IIUM? And the third question is about that Prof has just told us that IIUM agenda is also to contribute toward the Islamization of human civilization. So my question is, after 62 years of its establishment, how far does IIUM fulfill this role? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sister. From which kuliah are you? Allied Health Sciences. Okay, good. Yes, I would like to be allied to you. Because the questions are very good, very pertinent. The first one has to do with actually course outline and the syllabus in which revealed knowledge matters are relegated to the last week. In other words, not really being incorporated or integrated all the way. So there is some kind of compartmentalization. where you deal with the scientific, technical, technological, without any reference to Islamic ethics, Islamic aqidah, or Islamic sharia. But at the end, you are required to come up with the dalil from the Quran or the Sunnah or the Turath. And you said that since it is at the very end, it could even be sacrificed. And this to my mind, needs to be discussed in the kuliah. But you were talking about CFS, right? This was in CFS. Yeah. Okay. So we should, bring this matter to CFS so that they will redesign the syllabus to incorporate the Islamic perspectives all the way through, wherever it is relevant. When the aqidah is relevant, bring in the aqidah. When the akhlaq is relevant, bring in the akhlaq. When the Islamic law is relevant, bring in Islamic law. But to do that, because the teachers are not trained in the religious sciences. So what you need to do, you can suggest, is that there should be committees consisting of science teachers working with revealed knowledge teachers. So the revealed knowledge people will try to look up the Quran, the Hadith, and the Torah for the relevant dalil. And the science teachers will say, yes, this is okay, this is not okay, this is relevant, not relevant. So I think you need to do this kind of thing, and I hope that our top managers and the deans and all that will bring this matter up in the Dean's Council or the Senate, so that a reconstruction, a redesigning of the curriculum could take place, instead of continuing this segregation, compartmentalization. We bring in integration. Okay, thank you, sister, for that. Lectures as Murabbi. Yes, I think when lecturers are appointed in the offer letter, I remember in those days, I don't know now, but in those days, yes, they were expected to be not just lecturers, but Murabbi. And in those days, that is to say when IIUM was at Petaling Jaya, we took this very seriously, and even in the law kuliahs and the economics, you begin with some tazkirah, some verses from the Quran, and then you also advise on students' behavior, conduct, and also you become, in a way, informal counselors for students to go to you and get counseling from you. These were expected of our lecturers. And of course, some lecturers do that, some don't. So, of course, the lecturers will say they don't have time for it, and the workload is quite heavy. Yes, our university's workload is quite heavy. I'm sure in medicine, in allied health sciences and all that, the workload is very heavy. But if this reminder could come from the top, then people will take it seriously. Otherwise, it will be forgotten. Now, where did you get this idea of 62 years? This is advanced mathematics. We were born in 1983. 83. Today is 2015. So how many years? How many years? 32. Well, you said 62. Did you mean 62 or 32? Oh, okay, then I'm sorry I misled you. I did not say 1953. I said 83. So if it came from me, then I seek your forgiveness. All right, so we were established 30 3 decades ago. And I can say that the results are uneven. All right? They're not really the same across the board. Some economics, very serious work on Islamization in some departments of economics, not all. In accounting, there is not much of that Islamization, but in the Department of Economics, a lot of Islamization. In business, not much. In law, you have there are 3 departments there. Some departments are very strong in Islamization. Some are strong in the comparative approach. But some are quite comfortable with the civil law. All right? So there's a lot also of Islamization to be done in that area. In medicine, in Kuantan, medicine took the lead, because medicine came up first, and then other kuliahs came later. So medicine was well prepared for Islamization with what they call at that time Islamic input. You went through that? Yeah. Anybody from medicine? Anybody from medicine? Okay, yeah. Did you go through this Islamic input? Yeah, you did, you see? So, yes, you can have it Islamic input or Islamization. So, the initiative was taken by Prof. Umar Kasole, and of course now it's being continued by Prof. Arif and his team. And what is being done in IIUM is now being emulated in many other universities, including in Indonesia. So yes, in certain areas, we are quite happy. In other areas, we're not that happy. But the journey is quite long, sister. So let's not be disappointed. But I would like to see the deans play a very important role in reorienting, putting the institution back on track. So the responsibility of the deans, responsibility of the deputy rectors and the rector is very, very crucial. Okay, we go on to the next person.
Inshallah, we are going to have another 15 minutes. So I would like to limit one person.
Yeah, okay. We can go up to 11 o'clock.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, but for the time being, I would like to limit for one person with one question.
All right.
And then after that,
No sub-questions.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Mohd bin Mahmud from School of Science. I just have one question actually. In your last slide, sir, you mentioned about Islamization and Islamicization, which I think you proposed the idea of Islamicization maybe last year. So what's the difference between these two concepts? What are their basis? Thank you.
I think we take 2 more.
another 2 questions, and then Professor will answer.
Then we take another set of 3.
Okay, my name is Amir Ashraf from Kuliah of Science. Okay, just one question. I want to ask about how IIM can function to develop the figures to refute the world prominent figures of the human ideology, such as Richard Dawkins or other humans ideology, atheists, agnostics, and because I think this is a serious thing, because even in our university we do have a student, we have atheist ideology and agnostic ideologies. So I see this is a serious thing. How university can function, and what is the program, what our plan to create a figure such can debate with them, such as maybe we can create a figures like Hamza Zozis, which have debated Professor Lauren Cross about atheist versus Islam. Okay, thank you.
One more question.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to Professor and fellow friends. Okay, first I would like to I would like to say that this concept of Islamization of knowledge is very beautiful concept because it brings back the practice during the Prophet's time. My concern is that there are some students that are syllabus oriented. They apply this concept only to excel in their studies. So, in your opinion, what that you suggest to encounter this problem? Thank you.
Oh, there's another one. Okay, we take another one. Another one.
Tafadhal.
Sister, تفضلي.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Sincerely, on behalf of Faculty of Science, I really apologize for the air conditioning because we have put forward countless complaints, common complaints to the university, but these things always go to bomba and there's a lot of dates to go through. My question is two questions, if I may. What is the limit of reason and reasoning of the human mind? Can and would IIUM become a venue where the grey areas in Islamic knowledge, like the mutashabihats, the grey areas, be discussed academically and openly and continuously for the sake of future? Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Sister, I will come back to you because I want to know what those grey areas are, because apparently you have a big support from the audience. And so there must be something that I do not know the specifics, so it's good that you tell me the specifics. I'll come back to you, of course. Okay, yeah. What's the difference between Islamization and Islamicization? I have used the term Islamization of human knowledge just to conform to the constitution of the university. But personally, I prefer, my preference is Islamicization rather than Islamization. I say it is my preference. I'm not saying I am right, the other one is wrong. And that is because, to my mind, Islamization gives the impression that you have to embrace Islamic values. Well, let me say this, that there are things which are common to both Islamization and Islamicization, but there is one connotation of Islamicization which I think is not there in Islamization. Okay, first, what are the common things? That Islamization and Islamicization require that human knowledge be constructed, developed in conformity with the Aqidah, the Sharia, and Akhlaq of Islam. Okay? They are both the same. That is requiring conformity. Number two, Islamization and Islamicization also mean developing or producing knowledge which is in harmony with the Aqidah or the Sharia or the Akhlaq. So this The second one is harmonization. The first one is conformity. Conformity because there are certain commandments of Islam which you have to comply with. But with harmonization, the commandments may not be there. So you come up with something, and there may be new things, but as long as they are in harmony with the aqidah and so on, that's okay. For instance, we know very well that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala requires that the economic system be based not on riba, but on mutual trade. So the elimination of riba is a divine commandment. In politics, the idea of power belonging to human beings is not acceptable. Power belongs to Allah. Human beings are the holders of divine trust. And so we need to construct a political system that is in conformity with this divine requirement. But is parliamentary democracy spelled out in the Quran? There's no text, there's no dalil, but there is something called وَأَمْرُهُمْ شُورَى بَيْنَهُمْ, and scholars would say that parliamentary democracy, or democracy in general, is in harmony with the Aqidah, Akhlaq and Sharia, or with the worldview of Islam. The Quran does not command that you produce democracy, but democracy is in harmony with the idea of وَأَمْرُهُمْ شُورَى بَيْنَهُمْ. So the second connotation, again, is common to both. But there is one connotation which, to my mind, is only available in Islamization, not in Islamization. Because I said, Islamization gives you the idea that things will have to come in and then go through the filtration of Islam in order to be accepted. But with Islamization, is a process of recognizing, first of all, what is in other people's cultures, societies, civilizations, which are compatible with Islamic values, and therefore could be adopted, adapted, accepted, utilized, without any qualms of conscience. I give the example of some medical practices of the Chinese or the Indian. The acupuncture is a Chinese product. It's a Chinese discipline. It was not, the Arabs never had that. Maybe the Semites, the Semitic people, did not invent acupuncture. But acupuncture is proven to be effective. At least it's now being used widely, even in America, for reduction of pain as a form of pain relieving therapy. But now, acupuncture is used in Shanghai hospitals for, instead of using for surgery, say open heart surgery, what do you use?
Heart-lung machine.
Okay. Anesthesia, anesthetics, all right? Now, you could use acupuncture and still conduct open heart surgery while the person is still conscious. Painless, conscious, and effective. It's being done. And I can tell you who told me that. The Secretary General of the Ministry of Health, Dr. Hisham himself. He went to Shanghai because doctors told him he did not believe. He said, okay, you come and see what we do. So he went, he saw. They did not use anesthesia. They just put some needles, and then you are ready to open up your chest. it's cheap, it's effective, and it's working. Is there anything in the Quran or the Sunnah, the Hadith, the Torah? Nothing. Is it against Islam? No. It is cheap, it is not haram, it is maslahah, no side effects. Anesthesia has side effects. So that is good. Okay? So you can say it's Islamic. Okay, because Islamization is based on the word, on the adjective Islamic. Islamization is based on the noun Islam. So when you want to make something Islam, you Islamize. You make it into a verb, and then you have the noun Islamization. But Islamization is not from a noun, but from an adjective, which is Islamic. So when you want to make things Islamic, then you do Islamicization. All right? So there are many things which are not produced by Muslims, but actually produced by non-Muslims, which are useful, good, effective, not haram, compatible, acceptable. I thought the term Islamization is better than Islamization. Okay? But that is my own understanding. In the West, they don't make any distinction. Whether it is Islamization or Islamization, you're all bad. Islam is bad. Whether you try to make things sound better, for me, Islamization is more inclusivistic. Islamization tends to be exclusivistic. In the third connotation, in the first two, they share in common. All right, so that's my explanation. At the end of it, I'm not saying that the other one is wrong. Neither am I claiming that I am right. It's just my personal preference. Okay. Now, sister from Allied Health Sciences. Oh, sorry, the brother. Okay, very good question. You have now, among the students, hopefully not among academic staff, students who subscribe to atheistic, agnostic views of life. I have confronted one student in Gombak from the law kuliah. Well, in our university we have also some weird people. And in Gombak we used to call them, these are the softies. These are the mak lembut. These are the mak sotong or mek sotong, I do not know. Okay, we used to have that, and that was quite problematic. But now it's even more serious, because lembut, sotong, it's not a question of aqidah, all right? But atheism, agnosticism, implicates aqidah. So, and of course young people like to explore on the internet all kinds of debates about Islam. Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens, Stephen Hawking, and many others, Hobbes, are all over the internet, right? And of course, there are also, if you go to YouTube, you'll find the Muslim counterparts. Hamza Yusuf, Hassan, something in the BBC, sorry, Al Jazeera. I think there was a debate in Oxford between Richard Dawkins and Hassan, what's his name? He's a, Hassan what? Mahdi Hassan, thank you very much. Jazakallah. But I thought Mahdi didn't do a good job. Really, I thought Richard Dawkins was even more impressive. I felt sorry because Mahdi should have really done his homework. You want to engage Richard Dawkins, be very well prepared. Because Richard Dawkins spoke very calmly and asked him, do you believe that the Prophet went up to heaven in a white horse, winged horse, white, went to heaven? And Mahdi said, yes, I believe in it. I think that was his downfall. You could have answered differently. Anyway, so he did not study maybe theology. Because he could have bypassed this question. But he was caught there. And another question was asked, yes, I also believe. So that really puts him already on the losing track. Anyway, so if you want to engage people like Richard Dawkins, and these are the renowned atheists, you really have to be well versed in the modern sciences, because they use modern science, and they have a society of modern science, which actually promote atheism, because to them, you can't scientifically prove the existence of God. You can argue for the existence of God, but you can't scientifically prove using scientific, empirical proof. And they're quite strong on that. Anyway, so for us to produce this kind of people, I think we may have to come out with, our debating team is one of the best in the world, all right? But you know, in student debates, you don't really hold any absolute views about anything, because if you are a proposer, then you have to go for it. If you're an opposer, you have to go against it, all right? But we need, I think, to come up, develop a group of debaters who will defend the truth. So these are, I would suggest, our people to perhaps, because I have been out of administration for the last, for the last 7, 8 years. So I really don't know what's going on in administration. I'm just teaching, doing my job, and people, of course, they tend to forget all these old people. So students once in a while remember, that's why I come here. But otherwise, you're forgotten. And of course, it's better to forget me because I can be also problematic to them. So because I will remind them of this and that. So they don't ask my opinion. But if you want to really, you need to develop, train a group of students who will just tackle these ideological issues rather than becoming student debaters who have done very well for IIUM. We are now, of course, we have always been among the top 10 in the world for the debates. But I think we need to have this group of debaters from among teachers and students who are really trained to defend the Aqidah of Islam, the Sharia of Islam, the Akhlaq of Islam, and the civilization of Islam. But, like all debaters, you have to know the other story very well. You have to know what modern science is all about. You have to know the history of atheism. You have to know the arguments very well. You have to be prepared to counter and to refute their arguments one by one. And we don't have that kind of people. But anyway, thank you for bringing it up. Yes. Okay, another 5 minutes to go. All right, the last question is about students who are syllabus-oriented, examination-oriented. They're all everywhere. So we have to encourage, of course this is up to the academic staff to make them conscious of their Islamic responsibilities out there in the world. Okay, and the last question from Study of Science: what is the limit of reason and reasoning of the human mind? And then could IIUM become solve this or discuss the gray areas? So, sister, what are those gray areas? Sister, what are those gray areas? Okay, because you know, there is this axiom in Islamic law. That which is haram is clear. That which is halal is clear. As for anything that is not clear, stay away from it. In other words, don't try to indulge in things which are not very clear. Is that the gray area you're referring to? Then you mentioned mutashabihat. Mutashabihat refer to allegorical verses in the Quran which are capable of multiple meanings, interpretations. So if those verses are what you have, then you can have a special session dealing with ayat mutashabihat in the Quran. Problem solved. So maybe you want to enlighten me what you mean by this gray areas. Sorry?
Is there any referring to science topics?
Oh, okay, science topics. Yes. Yeah, I would think so. Maybe, you know what, my team, my research team, has been working for the last 2 years to come out with a book with the title, Natural Sciences from the Worldview of the Quran. I am in the final stage now. We should be finishing in the next 2 weeks. It's a 3-volume book consisting of about 1,400 pages. Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3. We integrate the subject of physics, chemistry, biology with Quranic ayat and also with Islamic history, pointing to the existence of Muslim scientists in the past. So hopefully our book might answer some of your questions. Okay? But your first question is, yes, very important question, limits to reason. Very good. Even the idea of reason having limits is already very good. Because some people think there's no limit. But reason is best when this is related to things which relate to what the Quran says, alam ash-shahada, the world, the visible world, the world that is tangible, measurable, observable, replicable, and so on. So reason operates well with regard to substances which are tangible. But when it comes, yes, sister, okay, go ahead.
In that view, I think apart from history, biology can also become, because when you study biology, there's always this exceptions to the rules. And if you go into physics and chemistry, the nature of things, sorry to use that word, but fire is hot. But how you say, it's very difficult to put this into words, but in biology, there's always exceptions to the rules. Meaning that if you say all living things have DNA, there is one creature, virus, which is debatable whether it's living or non-living, still have this genetic material.
Okay, you're being very specific now, but the big issue is what is the limit of reason? Okay? The Quran, the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ says, تَفَكَّرُوا فِي خَلْقِ اللَّهِ وَلَا تَفَكَّرُوا فِي ذَاتِ اللَّهِ. That's a major limit. You can think, you can contemplate, you can investigate things which have been created by God. Do not try to think about the essence of God. I was about to go into this area of al-ghayb. What is al-ghaib? To most people, it's hantu. No, the term al-ghaib means the realm which is beyond the ken of human reason. Human reason cannot fully understand because it is beyond logic. It transcends sense perception. So the akhirah is something that reason simply cannot understand. The presence of angels as God's instruments in life is something reason simply cannot understand. And that alone except the presence of ruh, because ruh is so crucial, but it is not seen. It is in the realm of al-ghaib. Reason cannot penetrate al-ghaib without the assistance of divine revelation. So you need divine revelation to understand things which transcend. Yes, please.
What if the technology is not there yet? Because we cannot see materials.
Okay.
And people come up with
Okay,
microscope.
we can wait another 200 years, no problem. For the technology to prove God is there, we can wait 300 years, no problem. So the issue is, first, do you agree there is a limit to reason or not? You're not answering. Okay, that's good. All right. That shows where you are. Okay. So, all right, I will have a personal communication with her later on. Okay, any other questions?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Mohd Shafiq from Kuliah of Dentistry. I just have simple questions, perhaps a very simple one. My question is, we are talking about Islamization of knowledge, Islamization of human knowledge. So what is the main KPI, or how to actually we measure the success, or how to actually we to determine whether the mission of Islamization is a success in students? So what is the measurement that we use to actually measure the success of Islamization of human knowledge?
Okay, very good. And this will be the last question. If you look at how I presented the subject with the last items, 14 items, from integration to new construction, I am indicating there the different types of Islamization efforts. Islamization is not a single effort. It's a number of efforts, ranging from simple integration to complete reconstruction, coming out with a new tree, and not just cutting the branches. But some Islamization require you to remove certain toxic things from the system. Some will require complete overhaul. So depending on what is the objective, we can measure. If the idea is, if you want new courses in the Kuliah of Science to be introduced on the basis of Islamization, you come up with those, say, 5 courses, you are successful in that. But if you're talking about success in the sense of implementation, and not just teaching in the university, but able to translate Islamic values in society, require another kind of measurement. That is how Islamic ideas are accepted, translated, implemented in society. So we teach our students Islamic economics, Islamic finance. We teach our students Islamic architecture. And curriculum is good, teacher is good, students are good. Okay, you fulfill the KPI. But they go out into society, and then instead of bringing Islamic alternatives, they're quite happy with business as usual. They're quite happy with the conventional systems. We fail. So we succeed in the university, we fail out there. All right, so the space where Islamization is to be measured is also important. Is it the academic space? Is it the social space? Is it political space? Is it economic space? Is it technology? So it is a complicated matter, but you have raised a very important issue. And I just cannot give a simple answer because there are degrees of success, there are many types of success, and there are many types of goals. What I've been trying to do in this university is to say, at least to my academic colleagues, there are no excuses. If you can't plant a tree, at least remove a bad apple. So, like Tony Fernandez, you know Tony Fernandez? Okay, you have been traveling in his plane? Okay, what did Tony Fernandez say? Now everyone can fly. So, inspired by Tony Fernandez, I say, now everyone can do Islamization, depending on where you are, on how much you can do, on how sincere you want to do. If you cannot critique, you can compare. If you cannot change, you can improve. So there are many things you can do. So Islamization is like, it's a complex process, right? Beginning with La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah to establishing a whole civilization. But everyone has a role to play. And that's where I said the idea of inviting. This is the da'wah aspect. So do what you can. Mastata'tum. You see? To the extent that you're capable of. Like the sister talking about, you know, the teaching of science being not really being compartmentalized. And the Islamic comes at the very end, which then could be easily sacrificed because of lack of time. All right? Now, the easy thing to do is, okay, let us incorporate from day 1, from week 1 to week 14, some aspects, some perspectives of Islam, either the Turath, either the Aqidah, either the Sharia, either the Akhlaq. Or if we can't do that, at least be critical. Not everything that we learn from the West is acceptable. So that criticality is your ability to Islamize to the extent of the knowledge that you have. If you have more knowledge about the Turath, the rich legacy of Islam, if you have knowledge about the Quran and the science, the references to scientific phenomena in the Quran, and the Hadith, and the Turath, you can do much more. My point is, from now on, you cannot give any excuses. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for Professor Tan Sri Kamal Hassan. So I'm really sorry to the audience because I need to limit the time, and need to limit the question. I'm really sure that if I continue the session, there will be plenty of questions more. But yeah, every program has its end. So I would like to pass the program back to our MC. Thank you.
Thank you to our respected guests for question and answer session. Finally, we would like to invite Dr. Azrawati Roslan, Deputy Dean of Student Affairs, Kuliah of Pharmacy, accompanied by Brother Farahi Arif bin Tajul Arifin, Program Manager of this talk, to give away the souvenir to our honored speaker, Tan Sri Professor Dr. Muhammad Kamal Hassan. Ladies and gentlemen, please, round of applause. Now, we would like to invite our respected guests, accompanied by Dr. Azhar binti Roslan and Brother Fahri Arif, to have a seat at the banquet chairs.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our event. On behalf of the organizing committee, we would like to